Hey guys, it's the P-Child. I'm bringing you a Necro guide. A lot of people in my stream have been asking how to play Pestilence. So here's a guide how to play it. I'm going to go over the skills, the abilities, the runes, all that kind of stuff. And then hopefully you guys can start pushing with it a little bit. So first we'll start with the skills. You run Decrepify, Borrowed Time, Corpse Lance, Brittle Touch, Devour with Cannibalize, Land of the Dead with Frozen Lands, Blood Rush with Molting, and Simulacrum with Reservoir. For the passive skills, you want Blood is Power, Overwhelming Essence, Final Service, and Standalone. I'll go into more detail on the skills after I go over the equipment, but that's just a quick rundown so you can set your bars up real quick. For your skills, or for your equipment, you're going to run the 6-piece Pestilence set. So obviously that includes the shoulders, feet, hands, head, torso, and legs. You're going to run Dante's Binding for the belt, Nemesis Bracers, a Convention of Elements or Crispin Sentence. It depends on which one you have the better ring of. Probably Convention of Elements tends to roll better, so you'll probably have a better convention, but if you get a really good Crispin, use that instead and then cube your conventions. You can see my Crispins is cube. Compass Rose and Traveler's Pledge. And then for your weapons, you are going to use Tragul's Corroded Fang and any stat stick. The offhand doesn't matter. What matters is the stats that are on it. It needs to have maximum essence, corpse lance damage, cooldown reduction, critical hit chance, and I would probably prioritize maximum essence first, cooldown reduction second, corpse lance damage third, and critical hit chance fourth. That's one of the hardest items for me to get. It took me a long time to get the one I have, and it's still not that great. That's your gear. We've gone over the skills. The cube, you run Relina's Shadow Hook, Corpse Whisper Pauldrons, and then whatever ring you don't have on. Paragon points, maximum essence is first, movement speed to 50 or 25% is second. I need 13% for my gear, so I added that in. Intellect gets the rest. Everything else you can max out when you're Paragon 800, so that doesn't matter. And then I'll go over a little bit now how to play it, why the skills mesh together so well. So we'll start with Decrepify. Decrepify, when you throw it out, it puts a big circle on the ground. Anything you hit is going to get cursed. Cursed does a couple things. One, it slows people down, slows the enemies down, which makes them take increased damage from your Crispin Sentence. Crispin Sentence reads, you deal 100% increased damage against slowed enemies or triple bonus against enemies that are affected by any other type of crowd control. So it's going to slow them, which increases damage, but you're not going to do much damage outside of your cooldowns anyway, so that's not really important. What Decrepify Borrowed Time, the big thing it does is A, it gives you an additional 45% to 50%, depending on what belt you get. 50% damage reduction from your Dante's Binding belt, as long as you have one guy cursed. So if you curse somebody, you're getting 50% damage reduction. Super important. The second thing that it does is with the Decrepify or the Borrowed Time rune, anytime you curse something, it gives you a 1% cooldown reduction up to a maximum of 20%. So that gets your cooldowns up faster. So you want to curse as many things as you can while you're waiting for those cooldowns to come up, because that helps get your cooldowns up faster. The second skill that we have is Blood Rush with Molting. And so every time you teleport, you leave a corpse on the ground. You can see the corpse. You can then consume that corpse with Devour. Okay, so what does that do? Well, with your set bonuses, you can see each corpse you consume fires a lance at a nearby target for the second 2-piece bonus. The 4-piece bonus is every time you hit somebody with that corpse lance, it's going to reduce your damage you take by 2% up to a maximum of 50%. So as long as you're teleporting around the arena, you're going to keep firing corpse lances at things, because you're going to devour those corpses you leave, which will keep your damage reduction at 50% all the time. So always teleport. Always teleport at least every 15 seconds. You should be doing it way more than 15 seconds though. The next skill that you have is Devour with Cannibalize. This is a staple for every Necro build ever, for the most part. You have to spam the ability. It's ridiculous. It's not fun. But that's how you do it. Spam the ability. There are some number lock tricks. You can set up macros with Logitech, SteelSeries, Corsair, Razer software. Any major gaming manufacturer of mouse or keyboard will have the ability to macro it to where you can just it'll smash the button for you. I recommend looking into those options if you like your fingers and hands. The next ability is Land of the Dead, Frozen Lands, and the Simulacrum with Reservoir. These are your big cooldowns. They have a 120-second cooldown. That's why cooldown reduction is paramount on your gear. The cooldown reduction on my character right now is 54%. I think anything above 50% becomes playable. If you're below 50%, the build is going to feel horrible. It's going to feel so horrible waiting for cooldowns. Some people have gotten this even in the 60 percentile range, I believe. I've never personally got mine that high. 55 is the highest I ever had mine. But once you get it up there, it becomes a lot more fun to play this build. So if you don't have your cooldown above 50%, don't judge the build until you do. So what you do is you want to, whenever you find an elite pack, there are a couple things you got to think of. First thing you got to do is he cursed? If he's not cursed, you got to throw a curse on him, because with your Tragul's Corroded Fang, you're going to do 200% more damage, up to 200% more damage. Mine rolled really crappy. I got 155%. But the weapon has percent damage, cooldown reduction, and essence. So this is as good as I could get. Still waiting for a better roll. But it's going to do, for mine, it's going to do 155% more damage to enemies that are cursed. So they're going to take more damage when you curse them, number one. Number two, you got to check your convention of elements, okay? You can see I'm hovering my mouse over it right now. You want to pop that when your physical is almost up. Like right now would be a good time to pop it. And if you pop it while it's almost up, what that's going to do is it's going to let you get time to get stuff cursed, make sure stuff's cursed, make sure you're standing in an Oculus circle. Like right now I'll pop it and you can see now it's poison. Here's my Land of the Dead. I'm doing max DPS until this cooldown runs out. Now it's cold. You can see I stayed in Land of the Dead for the entire cold cycle, which is perfect. So as long as you pop it right around the time the physical ends or the poison starts, you should have time to get enemies frozen, kill some of the trash, which will create Oculus circles because your followers ring, and get to a Oculus circle before you hit the cold cooldown, because as soon as you hit cold element, that's when your damage is really going to take off. So to get off subject really fast, make sure you have an Oculus ring equipped on your Templar. And what that does is it creates an area of focused power on killing an enemy. Damage is increased by 80% while standing in the area. So he's going to put little circles of light on the ground. Make sure you stand in those. The Simulacrum, so you pop Simulacrum right at the end of physical. Then as soon as you pop that, you want to pop Land of the Dead. But you want to make sure you pop Simulacrum first. That way you're not wasting any damage time with Land of the Dead. Simulacrum Reservoir doubles your maximum essence. So right now my maximum essence is at 328. And when I pop Simulacrum, you'll see now I'm at 656. Why is that important? Because we have Rolena's Shadow Hook in the cube. Every point of maximum essence increases your damage by 0.5%. So we're getting a 50% damage upgrade through essence on that. Actually, it's 0.5% times 328 extra. So I didn't break down the math. You do a lot more damage because of it. So that's why you pop Simulacrum first. And then when you pop Land of the Dead, it's going to freeze everything on the screen. Well, then that goes in tangent with your Crispin Sentence, which does triple bonus damage against enemies that are crowd controlled by any method other than slow. Land of the Dead freezes them. That's not a slow. It's 300% damage increase. So when Simulacrum's up, Land of the Dead Frozen Land is up, your convention lines up, you're standing in an Oculus circle, you have them cursed for your Tragul's Corroded Fang. You can see where I'm going here. Things are going to melt. Outside of that little bitty convention window, things still die decently fast, but you can really tell when you hit convention window. Then we have the Corpse Whisper Pauldrons in the cube. Corpse Lance damage is increased by 30% for 3 seconds when you consume a corpse, max of 20 stacks. As you're killing things, this is another reason why you want to hit your frozen towards the end of your cycle, because you're going to start killing all the trash that's around you while you're in the physical and the green, the poison and then right when you hit blue, you should already be close to max Corpse Whisper Pauldron stacks. And then that's all the abilities. We just went over the abilities. We'll go over the passives. Blood is power. After you lose 100% of your maximum life, cumulatively, you get a 20% cooldown reduction. So as your cooldowns are coming up and you're getting hit and things like that, all of a sudden you're going to get this 20% CDR buff from taking damage. It's really nice. Overwhelming Essence doubles your essence pool. So that's 40 essence now. It's 80 essence. At the top end, so that's really nice to have. A lot of people like to take, instead of that, they get fuel or spreading malediction, which gives you a 1% damage bonus for each enemy you have cursed. So you would have to have, this is 40 essence, which is going to be 20%. You'd have to have 20 enemies cursed in order for that to overpower the overwhelming essence. And then when you double that with the simulacrum, it's actually going to be 40. You'd have to have 40 enemies cursed, and as your cooldowns go, they're going to be killing things, so you're going to be losing those curses. I personally like overwhelming essence, but you could try out the spreading malediction if you want. Both are very good. Final service is cheat death. Basically, you don't have any pets anyway, so there's no negative drawback. It just keeps you from dying. And then stand alone increases your armor by 100% and reduced by 10% for each active minion. You have no minions, so you get 100% armor. And because of that, a lot of people like to also switch out their gems for strength and dexterity gems to get extra armor, because strength and dexterity both add armor. You do lose some damage off the top. So I think if I switch all my gems out, I end up losing around 150,000 damage, but I gain an additional 5 million toughness. So it, you know, take your pick which one you like. It's definitely an option if you're feeling too squishy. For me, damage is usually the problem, not toughness. So there's the abilities, there's the skills. That's how it all works. And you use obviously a cooldown reduction gem, a diamond in your helmet to get the cooldown reduction. For your legendary gems, you're going to use Molten Wildebeest Gizzard. It gives you 116 life per second. But the big point is not taking damage for 4 seconds. You gain an absorb shield for 200% of your total life per second. So you're going to get an absorb shield, like my life per second, if I look at it, is 133,000. So I'm going to get an absorb shield for 266,000. So as that shield's getting knocked off and regenerated, that also counts towards your blood is power passive to keep you alive and give you more CDR. Your second gem is Bane of the Trapped. Obviously gives you increased damage overall, slows things down. And then the third gem is Zay's Stone of Vengeance. You do more damage for the bigger the distance between you and the enemy. At 50 yards, with my gem being 110, I do 64% damage. Some people have that gem way higher and just do crazy amounts of damage. Nemesis Bracers obviously spawn the enemy on shrines, so that's why you have those. You get more elites to kill. More elites to kill means faster rift clears. That's it, guys. That's how you do it. We'll throw a play video in here so you can see how I clear a rift and see if you guys want to try it out. Thanks for watching.